All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the CNCF Harbor meeting. Be aware that this is a recorded meeting, so please adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. All right, so it's been a while since the last time we met, and I wanted to kind of update everybody on a few of the different features and things that Harbor is working on, and make sure that we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions and address any of your concerns and do some follow-ups. What has happened in the last 1 month? Well, Harbor 1.10 shipped, so that was a huge release from our end. It added the pluggable scanner support, so now we have DUSEC, we have Trivi from Aqua, as well as Anchor Enterprise and Engine that are able to supplement some of the scanning that's built in with Clair and give you more options so you can scan your artifacts in Harbor. We also published the Harbor 1.10 blog post. So if you go to goharbor.io, I'll paste a link right now as well to our chat, but you can see the blog post that we issued to kind of document the 1.10 release, talk about some of the major features, everything from the pluggable scanners to the immutable registries capabilities that we added, some of the OIDC group membership, as well as the limited guest. So if you want to learn more, please look at the blog post. Our docs are also getting a complete revamp, so we're going to have brand new documentation on our website very soon as well. So it should be easier for you, everyone, to search and find content on Harbor. Any questions on 1.10? All right, and our plan is to ship a 1.10 patch that will include some bug fixes and things that were found by the community, as well as by some of our internal testing that didn't make it in 1.10. That's supposed to go out first half of February. So 1.10 patch will come out then. And always, whenever we ship a patch, we also have an update to the home chart. So all the things that you're expecting to see from the Harbor release will always be there. All right. In terms of what's coming up next, I'm not sure how many of you guys are super engaged in our community, but we had created a document called a feature hopper for 1.11, which was later renamed to Harbor 2.0. So the next release of Harbor will be a major release of Harbor. I pasted a link to the document that kind of outlines some of the big features that we're adding in 2.0. Now, not everything here in this list is going to make it in. Just like any other project in the open source community, we started with a prioritized backlog of items we want to build. We costed them, we identified the architecture and the high level features of each of them, and then we started executing. Very likely, we will implement the OCI registry support as well as the garbage collection feature. That's part of the candidate features, and then anything else that kind of can slip through the cracks and get in here, we'll look at as well. But let me talk a little bit at the high level in terms of what those features are. The OCI registry support essentially makes Harbor to be OCI compliant. So that means that Harbor will be able to support the push and pull of any OCI artifact. What are some of the OCI artifacts? Home charts, container images, OPAs, operators, and potentially CNAP bundles as well. So you'll be able to push and pull all these images, but more importantly, the entire ecosystem of capabilities that Harbor provides would also work. So you'll be able to apply quotas, retention policies, replication, RBAC and authorization, robot accounts. All of these capabilities that Harbor that you're used to basically being able to use with Harbor will apply to all these additional OCI artifacts. And as more and more OCI artifacts become compliant, you'll be able to push those into Harbor as native artifacts. That work is already ongoing. We're also working with the bigger OCI team, and Harbor has a seat at the table in terms of attending meetings and basically being able to consume the contributions that are coming out of that community. And as that work is right now on track to be delivered with a tentative release date at or near KubeCon Europe, which is basically last week of March, first week of April. So that's what we're looking for. The second big feature of this release is garbage collection. So today, when you run garbage collection, especially for our customers that have terabytes and terabytes of storage on Harbor, what you're seeing is that it basically blocks all the push and pull operations for a significant amount of time. So we have a customer that has 29 terabytes on Harbor, and GC could take pretty much a day. So that's not an acceptable option. So as part of the work that we're doing right now is we're trying to identify a way as part of this reorganization for OCI as well. It gave us the opportunity to figure out how to make garbage collection better so it will be non-blocking. So what that means is that any time that you run garbage collection on Harbor against your registry, you still be able to push, pull, and delete images, so those operations will be unaffected. So your registry will no longer be in read-only mode. I think that's probably one of the biggest blockers and biggest issues that folks are having as they're scaling up their Harbor instances. And right now, I think we have more than 10 customers that have terabytes of storage on Harbor that we know of.
Michael?
Those are the kind of two biggest items, but feel free to peruse the feature hopper. And if there's a specific feature that you really feel passionate about, whether that's because you have that affects you as an organization, go and add a comment to the actual GitHub issue. If you feel like you have the necessary skills and want to come and help us develop the feature, please ping me privately on Slack or post a message in the GitHub issue, and we'd love to see more and more contributions from everyone. The last two things that I kind of wanted to mention is we do have a GitHub issue that we've been kind of advertising to the community in terms of encouraging everybody to come in and tell us their use case about Harbor, what kind of size of environment they have, how they're using it. We want to encourage all of you guys to come and do the same. And I'm pasting a link here to that issue here on the chat window. This is just simple GitHub issue. And you see that many customers have come in and put in their case and said, hey, I'm using Harbor. I have X amount of storage, these many images across these many projects. This is the release I'm having. And more than a few folks have found it also as an opportunity to come and tell us that, yes, I'm using Harbor at high scale, but I'm also encountering some problems. And that's a good way to get our attention because that's a highly visible thread. Everybody from product managers to our leaders in engineering are looking at it. So folks that have had issues, whether UI based or otherwise, it's a good way for them to get attention and put them at the top of the stack. This is the updates that I had for today. Now I want to open it up to everyone and see if anybody has any issues and basically give an opportunity for you guys to ask questions.
I got one question, Michael, regarding the garbage collection. So
maybe I'll do it a little bit differently. Let's do very, very quickly and do a round of introductions. So folks that don't usually talk, just tell us very quickly where you're from, what company, and how you're using Harbor. So let's start with Chris.
Hi, my name's Chris Davis. You'll find me on GitHub as cdchris12. I work for Amazy.io. We are a web hosting platform. We're currently tied to OpenShift as our backend, but we're looking to make the shift to native Kubernetes. And this all started with, we need a container registry for that. And then we realized Harbor does security scanning, and that got us into Claire, which then begot Anchor. And it looks like we'll be looking into Anchor Enterprise soon too. So we dove off the deep end on that one.
Very nice. That's awesome, Chris. And since you're going to be looking into Anchor and Anchor Enterprise, we did a webinar with Anchor not too long ago. Let me actually see if I can find it really quickly. And we basically structured that webinar around some of the key capabilities that Anchor has with Harbor, and I'll find it soon enough and paste it here. So as you're looking into this, we can basically put you together with the right folks, and feel free to ask us questions.
I do have one question about the need for our use of Anchor, if you don't mind me asking now.
Go ahead.
Um,
Yeah.
so one of our issues with Harbor is that it's really difficult to see a bird's eye view of all of your containers when you're looking for security scan information. You have to view them per project, per repository, per container. It's so hard to do that. Um, so that's the reason we went with, we're looking at going with Anchor. Their enterprise product provides a UI for all of the scans that it's doing. Um, is there a plan to build that into Harbor at some point, that same functionality?
Yeah, I mean that's a very valid point. I think that it does make sense for us to create some high-level bird's eye view more around, how many vulnerabilities are found across each project. So when you're looking at the high-level projects view, you don't have to dig into each project. Um, uh, would you mind creating a feature request issue on our GitHub page to kind of document that? That way you attribute the request to you as well. But also this will give an opportunity to other users to come and chime in and say, hey, Chris is right. I need this too. And then, the more folks that come in and talk about it, and it kind of builds some momentum in the community, the most likely is we're going to actually go ahead and introduce it.
Cool. I'll do that.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate
Yep.
it. And I'll paste the link to the webinar in a little bit. And it looks like I couldn't hear anybody earlier while I was speaking. So if someone had any questions that I did not railroad you, I couldn't hear you. So if someone had, and I realized that I couldn't hear anybody when Jonas picked me and says can you not hear me? And I was like, no. So Jonas, if I missed what you said earlier, please go ahead now.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yay! The wonders of the internet. So I just had a question regarding garbage collection.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the doc here. We're talking about allowing manual execution as well as scheduled tasking. Have we looked into having something like if it has been in garbage for more than X amount of days, then delete, otherwise leave?
Yeah, so this is the garbage collection that's happening here is more at the layer, the Docker layer. So what happens is as images are getting pushed and pulled, several layers that may have been in use at some point are no longer in use. So it's very hard for us to know when it was not in use. But because this is think of this as a referential table that's huge, especially if you have a terabyte plus ecosystem of containers. So what happens at garbage collection, you can dictate how often you want to run it. So you want to run it daily or every week or on demand. And when that GC happens, we'll go and find the references that no longer have a pointer to them. And that's basically what we delete. So it's very hard for us to know how long it has not been referenced because that's not information that Docker provides us, but we'll know if anybody is using it or not and clean it up.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And I found the link to the webinar, Chris. So I just pasted it right now. It's on BrightTalk, and that's basically called Policy-Based Security for Harbor Operators with Anchor. If you need more information, contact me or Zach Hill. We're both on the CNCF chat, and we can give you additional info.
Yeah, I saw the presentation we did on one of the last community calls. That was really good. Helped me sell it to my boss. So
perfect. That's awesome. Sure, Zach will be ecstatic about that. So we have a question from Tiano, and I realize he has an issue with his microphone. That's a true issue, not my end in this case. He's asking, does the garbage collection take into account users doing pull by digest? Yeah, so the GC in this case, it's not necessarily user-based, it's more on the end. So it's looking at all the images and the references that they have across all the layers. So if what users are pulling images or not is not affected by that. However, we have a different feature called retention, and retention of images does take into account dates, like what Jonas mentioned earlier. So if you're looking at some of the retention policies that Harbor has, those provide capabilities to basically limit the number of images that you have in a project based on either pools or based on a date that the image was pushed. And I'll send you guys a link to that in a second as well. So let me go to our website and find a link to the retention. Any other questions? Here, I'm pasting a link to the retention rules now. So retention policies are all about, hey, I want to have a compliance policy that says don't keep images that are super old so that users don't install them, because those images are likely to have vulnerabilities, are likely to have really old code. So I want to clean up, especially if you have a CI/CD system that keeps pushing an image every day or every hour or at whatever interval, then your Harbor installation is going to get really huge. So we use retention policies and quotas to kind of control the size of a repository. So quotas enforce how much you can have, and retention policies will reduce it so you can stay within the boundaries of your quota. So the link I sent you guys talks a little bit more about giving some example of retention policies, sorry. Tianon, I hope that answers your question. Any other questions or concerns?
Are there any plans to update the Helm chart to support different scanners out of the box?
Interesting. So we had so that's something that we are discussing. Today, the batteries included out of the box scanner is Claire. Obviously, we as a community feel like Trivy is probably a better scanner. Trivy, the one that Aqua has been publishing, and we're working on a plan to see if it is possible to incorporate Trivy as a secondary built-in scanner in Harbor. Claire will not go away, at least not in the immediate future, because we will need to support backwards compatibility and upgrades. But in the future, as Trivy becomes more and more prevalent in the community, then that might become the default scanner. We're ways away from that, but that's something we're looking into. So I believe in the feature hopper, there should be an item for that, but if it isn't, I'll make sure we add it.
Great, thanks.
And go back to the feature hopper right now. Yeah, it's not there yet, but that's something we started working on. And actually, our latest maintainer, Daniel P, is going to be the one that's going to be spearheading that process, since he's also part of the Aqua team. Chris, which company did you work for? I kind of missed that earlier when you mentioned it.
Amaze.io, Amaze, and then an E.io. Our flagship product is Lagoon. It's a container management system that lets you use Kubernetes without knowing Kubernetes.
Well, that's useful.
It is. You just write some YAML and then we do everything else for you.
Very, very cool. All right. So we covered Chris. So John, you want to go next? Tell us a little bit about how you're using Harbor and what do you work for? And you're muted. You're really muted. Hey, it wasn't just me that messed up today.
Double mute. So first time I get to say on a call, I work for VMware, newly part of VMware from the Pivotal acquisition. I work with a group of people who are developing the customer-facing registry for distributing all of the containerized products that we're working on. Interesting, new and more recent motivation is the anyone who's familiar with PaaS or the Pivotal Application Service. There's a new version of it that's going to be built on top of Kubernetes. So previous to the last couple of weeks, we had about 4 or 5 internal teams that were going to be distributing some containerized software. That's now gone up to somewhere between 20 and 30 teams within the next couple of months. So there's kind of two pieces of what we're working on. The main part is distributing the software for customers, integrating it with our current Pivotal network, which is our authentication system for that, which allows people who create software to manage the release. And we're essentially tying that and automating to things like moving. We have 2 projects for every customer facing product. So there's like a staging project where the teams building that software can push the container images to, then as they create that release, they can publish it. Then we move it to a different project within Harbor that's public facing. And so things like the granular access control features and things like, a lot of the manipulations we're doing at the project level are because of the way that we have to manage the access control, which is actually, we haven't found anything too significant as limitations there. Using the retag feature, it's super fast to be able to move things from one project to the other. So we just use the API for that. As we've started interviewing some customers for consuming this software, we've started to find some interesting things though. One of which is they're having difficulty in understanding how to set up their own registry. So we don't want people to be continually pulling against our registry. If our registry goes down, we want them to be able to redeploy their software locally. So they need some help setting up Harbor locally in a way that's going to meet their broader enterprise requirements. So they don't just want a version of it running on Minikube on a developer's laptop or something like that. They want a real production version. And the other part of this is they want to quickly know when there's a new version of the software available. So right now, if you're using a Concourse pipeline, one of the Pivotal CI/CD system, it's pinging against Harbor every minute for every container image that you could possibly pull down, which in and of itself isn't really a super massive demand, but when every single one of the customers are pinging for every single one of the container images that are possibly hosted, it adds up. So we're starting to investigate the possibility of what we're calling an edge registry deployment to actually manage that for the customer. So it would be something that we could install, help them, some more of like a productized version of a little bit more advanced than like the Harbor tile that some people may be familiar with. And the main point of that is not so much the Harbor piece, but to manage maybe some of the replication as well, to configure it so that they can more efficiently pull all of the images down rather than having some other external mechanism. And we don't want them to have to do all of the work to configure all of those settings for every single product that they might want to consume.
Yeah, this is awesome, John. And I think we have a few things down the pipeline that might help you. We'd also love for you guys to come and contribute. Are you part of Andrew Stringer's team or extended team?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just making sure. Yeah, I've been talking to him. So this is awesome. Love the fact that you're wearing our Harbor t-shirt, our jersey, or hoodie. So that's good. Yeah, so there's a couple of features that Harbor will introduce at near future. They won't be part of the next release, but we already started thinking about them. The first one is a proxy cache capability. So as you're talking about edge deployments, being able to preheat or have those deployments be locally on the edge, but only bring in the images that they need to a la how Docker registry proxy cache works, that might be very advantageous. And we actually tested proxy cache under our OCI work, and it seems that most of the things are working. The only thing that we don't have is, obviously we don't have the test pipelines around that, and we don't have the ability to configure the local Harbor. So very likely 2.1 will have proxy cache capabilities. It's like at the fundamental level, it's working. The second thing is, you mentioned, being able to install a Harbor instance locally at the edge or anywhere else similar to how the Harbor tile is in PKS. We're actually working on an operator pattern for Harbor that will basically take care of everything: installation, configuration, upgrades, very likely install some of the dependent components like Postgres and Redis. So it will be a fully fledged solution that enables you to deploy Harbor using a simple YAML file. So we're looking for folks that are going to come and contribute on that. So if that seems interesting and aligns with your scenarios, you guys can even take the lead on that, and we can help out on the back end.
Yeah, I think those both sound super interesting, and we're in the process of negotiating. Our team would love to contribute as much as possible to Harbor, but we just have to figure out the resource constraints and staffing and things like that. So hopefully it's a little easier now.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. All right, and I think Tianon, I don't know if you want to type any of the stuff that you have in terms of where you work and how you're using Harbor. It's up to you. We'll give you a minute if you want to type. And we also lost the other gentleman that was online, so. Oh, Tianon, you're from InfoSifter. I know you guys. So you're the guys that are based in Las Vegas. So InfoSifter basically has a small appliance that basically has a full cloud native basically it's a full cloud native appliance box. I met some of the folks from your organization, so nice to see you here, Tianon. So they are looking into what kind of registry they can distribute as part of their appliance, and Harbor is one of the options. So hopefully we can make that happen. All right, so we have about 2 minutes left. If someone has a pressing questions or anything, I'll give them the mic for 2 minutes. But otherwise, we'll call it a day. All right, everybody. Well, have a great rest of your day, and see you in 2 weeks. I will cancel the meeting because it's the Chinese New Year, the Spring Festival. So most folks are out from our team, and then we'll reconvene. I'll see you guys in a month, and hopefully we're going to have a lot more updates about Harbor then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.